It is 6:02. I will call to order the June 3rd meeting of the Amity City Council. Please rise and join me in saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Tasha, will you take roll first, please?
Present.
Present.
Rachel Paul.
Present.
Chad Weaver.
Present.
Caleb Fields.
Here.
Alex Thompson is absent, and Mary Rubin.
Here. We'll start off the evening with the consent agenda. We have budgets versus actuals and the minutes from our regular city council meeting and the budget committee minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Consent agenda approved. We will move into citizen comments and questions. First off, we have the Yamhill County Sheriff's Office report in the packet. Were there any questions there? And I don't see a DIG representative. Do we have any citizens in the audience with a comment or question? Or anyone online? Okay. Nope, seeing and hearing none. We will move on to old business, of which we have none. And we will move into our first item, which is the budget. Yeah. So Oregon budget law requires that the council, like the budget committee, hold a public hearing to give the public an opportunity to comment on how their tax dollars, including state revenue sharing, will be used. The public hearing before the Amity City Council is now open to receive comment on the proposed budget and state revenue sharing. Are there any members of the public that would like to provide comment? Hearing no desire for public comment, the public hearing for the Amity City Council is now closed. And we can move on to the budget details. So we held our budget committee meeting on May 13th. There were a few changes to that draft budget, which are incorporated into the budget that is before us. Nathan, do you have anything else to add?
I do not have anything to add. Would you like me to kind of recap budget message or?
Sure, maybe a 5-minute overview, and then there is a change because of the change in audit price. That was one change that happened since the budget committee.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed. There were a couple of changes in budget committee that we discovered more accurate prices for, and then Mayor King recommended that we revisit or take a look at our audit contract and see where that was at. And we were able to reach out to them and learn that our 3-year contract had ended and that moving into a new contract, there was going to be an updated price, also because of an acquisition, but we got a more accurate price for this year's audit. So just to quickly go over some of the budget highlights, you'll notice again, the biggest kind of decrease this year is in that capital outlay. That's just as more of those capital projects wrap up and end. The Fifth and Stanley Waterline project has been completed. The water treatment plant project is just about done. We gave the contractor substantial completion as of mid-May. Now we're just working through punch list items to get those final little pieces done and the project and get the project to the finish line. So that's the biggest kind of overall shift. Now we're really, as a budget, we're really looking at sustaining and making sure that our operational revenues meet our operational needs. and and tying those together so that we can continue to operate and even hopefully build fund balances and prepare for future capital improvements. Sorry. Couple of other projects that we're excited for in the coming budget year include an SCA grant project. Have not yet received an announcement on that grant award, but hopefully will soon. That SCA grant has been a kind of consistent source of street improvement funding for the city of Amity, and we're hoping for another $250,000 grant from that program to improve streets that need safety and walkability improvements. We are going to be seeing improvements on Oak Avenue. That's funding that was previously secured by Representative Elmer in the Oregon State House and given to the city to improve Oak Avenue in support of the affordable housing on the south end of the street. Kind of as an overall outlook and conclusion, the city's funds are generally balanced. There's a few issues or there's a few areas where we'll need to continue keeping an eye on it as in the coming years. Specifically the water fund struggling just because of the debt burden currently on it, but we're hopeful that revenues will continue to increase at the pace that they are, at which point that fund will balance out in a few years. Sewer fund is balanced, but struggling a little bit until the major debt service in that fund drops off. Not this budget year, but the next budget year. Are there any further questions? Sorry, that was a really quick overview. There's a lot more in there in the budget message itself, but I'm also happy to just answer any questions.
Just for full transparency, the line item for the shared audit in our allocated shared expense went up $7,000 for our new contract for the company that we does our audit services. So that was the only change that happened post budget meeting.
All right. Any questions concerning the budget? Seeing none, we will move into resolution 2026-03. This is a resolution that sets the spending limitations by appropriating funds and also imposes and categorizes the tax at the rate of 3.6105 as adopted by the city council. Do I have a motion?
I have a question on that. Usually it's two motions, but I don't see the ad valorem
It's the,
specifically listed in the rate. Do I need to include the rate in that?
so it's in the resolution and then in the motion, it says,
Mm-hmm. Do you need me to?
I mean, you can add the number
Okay.
in there, but we don't need it in the motion necessarily since it's within the resolution.
Okay. I move to approve the budget as described by the city administrator and approve resolution 2026-03, a resolution adopting the 2026 to 2027 fiscal year budget, making appropriations and levying and categorizing ad valorem taxes for the city of Amity for the 2026 to 2027 fiscal year.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the budget as described by the city administrator and approve resolution 2026-03, a resolution adopting the 2026-2027 fiscal year budget, making appropriations and levying and categorizing ad valorem taxes for the city of Amity for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Budget is adopted. Our next item, Resolution 2026-04, is a resolution required by the state in order for Amity to be included in state revenue sharing.
I move to approve Resolution 2026-04, a resolution declaring the City of Amity's election to receive state revenues for fiscal year 2026 to 2027.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve Resolution 2026-04, a resolution declaring the City of Amity's election to receive state revenues for the fiscal year 2026 and 2027. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Resolution approved. Our next one in this category is a resolution that's required in the state in order for Amity to be included in state revenue sharing. Cities located in counties with population greater than 100,000 must certify that the city provides at least 4 of the following municipal services: police protection, fire protection, street construction, maintenance and lighting, sanitary sewers, storm sewers, planning, zoning, and subdivision control, and 1 or more utility service. So this resolution would just certify that we provide those, at least 4 of those things.
I move to adopt Resolution 2026-05, a resolution certifying that the City of Amity meets all requirements to receive state shared revenues for fiscal year 2026 to 2027.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2026-05, a resolution certifying that the City of Amity meets all requirements to receive state shared revenues for the fiscal year 2026-27. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Resolution passes. Is that? Yes. So that was our last budget related item. And our next item of new business is a Recology rate increase. We have some guests that are going to present the information, but we all got that in our packet as well. So welcome.
Yeah, hold
Yep.
it to turn it on.
Nope, you should be good.
How about now?
Yeah, it should work.
You guys hear me? All
Yeah.
right, perfect. Actually, on that note, let me check my phone because I am horrible about that. So perfect. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here tonight. My name is Nick Olheiser. I am the Assistant General Manager for our Recology Western Oregon operations located in McMinnville. I have just a brief overview discussing our annual rate report and our rate increase for this year for the City of Amity. And then I have just really brief couple comments in regards to some of almost like a state of the company, some of the things that we've been working on over the last couple months that we're really proud about and want to share with you all. And then we'll wrap it up and I'll have plenty of time for any questions for anyone. So jumping into it, in your packet, you guys should have our cover letter, our annual report, as well as rate sheets for the City of Amity residents and businesses. And I believe our third-party audit might be in that packet as well. It's just an audit of our financials as well. So jumping into it, we are looking at a CPI-based rate increase of 3% this year. This pairs really well with actual CPI of 3.1%. Just a quick comment on that. For one of our more common customers, a 90-gallon cart weekly service, the impact on a monthly basis would be $1.13. So while not too impactful, we're also mindful at Recology that every dollar right now counts, especially now more than ever. So we have done a lot of things over the last year to mitigate any expenses that we can. And we've seen a lot of headwinds from RMA as well on our recycling processing costs. So all that played a key role in being able to come before you and just asking for a CPI-based rate increase too. One of the other things to note on that, this keeps pace with not only cost of service, but it limits us from having to come in front of you guys next year for a larger increase too. That's one of the unique things about these franchise agreements. It allows for the CPI-based rate increases. So it's minimal impacts every year. It's not dramatic. For our rate increase this year, some of the primary pressures is no surprise, fuel. We're seeing significant expenses on our fuel line item, as you can imagine, especially for a business like ours, where our primary mode of service is commercial trucks on the roadway every day. That adds up very quickly. And looking back through the history of some of these unfortunate circumstances, we don't see this being alleviated over the next couple months. Back in 2022, when we saw these dramatic fuel increases that lasted for upwards of 11 to 12 months before we saw relief at the pump. So that is one thing that's having an issue. Labor increases as well. We just renegotiated a CBA last January for our drivers and mechanics. One of the efforts that we always make when we go into these negotiations is to make sure that we're providing fair and livable wages for our employees. So that is having an impact on our expenses as well. And lastly, tip fee increases at our landfill. I shouldn't say our landfill, at Coffin Butte landfill, which is located just north of Corvallis. This year, we saw a 7.1% increase on our tip fees, while down from last year, which was 11% increase. After that rate increase of 7.1% was presented to us, that is when Coffin Butte landfill was denied their expansion of their probably was going to be their final sell. So now we're seeing even more constraints at that landfill, and we call it airspace. As that airspace starts filling up, it becomes more valuable. So we're starting to see that really affect us at the disposal site right now. Now, I will say we're working diligently internally on looking at other options, which would ultimately be a different disposal location, because even if rate increases weren't dramatic at the Coffin Butte landfill, it's only got a finite amount of years left. Right now, we're being told anywhere from 6 to 9 years. And even the expansion effort that was denied, that would have probably only got them another 4 to 5 years. So the writing's kind of been on the wall that we're going to need to start doing some of our homework to find another home for our tons, not just for the city of Amity, but for all of Yamhill County that we touch. All of our tons currently go to Coffin Butte. So we're looking at options. Unfortunately, a lot of those options are out in the gorge. While tip fee prices out in the gorge are very favorable, as you can imagine, trucking is going to be costly for that. So as we come up with some solutions and some ideas, we plan on coming back before you all to present that before we have any kind of dramatic impact on the rates, whether it's favorable or unfavorable as well. So I want to take a pause there and just open it up for any questions that you guys might have on our rate increase or our annual report that I can answer before I just have a few other brief comments on some of the things that we're working on here locally.
Just a point for your.
Yeah,
These are those done by weight or are they done by bond?
they're done by the ton. Yes. And it's become even more exacerbated ever since Covanta. I don't know if anyone's familiar with Covanta. It was the burner that was located in Brooks. It's where all Marion County tons were going. When they shut down a handful of years, well, I guess it's only been probably about 2 years ago, a lot of those tons started flowing into Coffin Butte as well. So with already having limited space, their tons are starting to increase into that landfill. So it's only making more of a challenge for us, which is all the more reason that we're being proactive and looking at other options for us. So, but yeah, it is unfortunate that a lot of the larger landfills that have an extended life period, 100+ years, are all the way out in the gorge. So, but we're looking on things that we could do to mitigate that. So, any other questions from the rate standpoint?
You want to elaborate on any of those ideas by chance, or can you?
I can't too much. I mean, a lot of it is we've been making connections with some of these other landfills. We're trying to figure out what pricing would look like if we locked into potentially a short-term or long-term contract. But then another part of that is layering on the freight that's going to be associated with that. Right now, on average, we can get 3 or 4 loads per driver out to Coffin Butte landfill each day. After talking with supervisors and frankly, even some of the drivers that have been in the gorge, if we go to the closest one, which is Hood River, that's probably still 1 load a day. So it's taking a driver that's, I mean, with that math, with current volumes, we need to add times 4 drivers at the very least. So that's where we're kind of looking at what are some options that we have. Now, there is some other somewhat closer options, but there's a lot of nuances that go into it as well. So we're putting everything up on the wall in the war room that we call it back at the office and seeing what we can do, because 6 years is not a long time. I can't believe I'm saying that. I wouldn't have said that when I was a kid. My dad warned me about that when I was younger that, hey, time gets faster and faster before you know it. And here we are. So, yeah. Any other questions really quick? Perfect. Okay. Well, just a couple of brief comments. So from a Waste Zero and outreach efforts that we've been doing over the last several years, more specifically the last 12 months, we've been putting a tremendous amount of focus on that, tabling events. We have a Waste Zero specialist, Cade Kleinstuber, who partners really well with the community to put on these events. We have partnered with the City of Amity for community cleanup events, which are very, very popular throughout all the jurisdictions that do it. And we're really happy that we continue to provide that support to the city and its residents. I know it goes a long ways and the residents really appreciate that as well. So one of the other things that we have implemented, it was 2 years ago, this was our second year, but our Earth Day poster contest. So right around March timeline, we partner with all the schools in the community, K through 8, and those classrooms, their students can submit artwork that's geared around Earth Day or reuse, recycle, better use for materials that could be going to disposal sites or elsewhere. They do artwork, they submit it to our offices, and then we actually go around and we get to vote on an overall winner for the artwork submitted. And the winning class, so for the student that is selected as the overall winner, that winning class gets a pizza party. We do a certificate to the teacher that they can buy school supplies for that classroom as well. And we also take that art and we put it on t-shirts, and then we give it out during our Earth Day celebrations at our transfer stations. And one of the really cool things is the overall winning class was actually located here in Amity. It was Melissa Taylor's class over at the middle school. So that was really, really cool that we were able to have that come together this year. So it's something that we're really proud of. Again, we're in year 2 and we don't plan on cutting that program at all. It's something that's been really, really cool. One of the other programs that we started in the Valley, while new to the Valley, not new to Recology last year, is our artisan residency program. What that is, it's a 4-month-long program where we select 2 local artists. And over that 4 months, they have access to our transfer station. And they can go to the transfer station, they can pick out trash or recyclables, and they actually make art out of it. And then at the end of the 4 months, we rent a studio space down on 3rd Street in McMinnville, and they can not only display the art that they've made, but they can sell it as well. Last year was our first year doing it. We just kicked off the program this year with our 2 new artists. Last year on opening night, this hasn't happened yet in Recology, but on opening night, they sold 99% of the art on the first night. So that was really cool. One of which might be in my house right now that my wife's not happy with me about because it doesn't match any of the decor in our house, but I saw it and I had to have it. So there we are. That was a nice little discussion with her that night, but that's something that we're really proud of and something that we're going to continue to keep in place here locally for the foreseeable future. And then lastly, some of the other things I want to touch base on: customer service metrics. If you were to ask me to talk about customer service metrics 3 years ago, I would have walked out. It was embarrassing and atrocious. And we heard you and we heard our other jurisdictions that this is something that we need to make improvements towards. I can say proudly that over the last 10 to 11 months, we are now averaging a wait time of 30 seconds to answer our customers. A lot of that's been done through staffing, systems and tools, updating some of the tools that our customer service reps utilize on a daily basis to make sure that they can answer that as well. And as well as just holding accountability and championing the metrics as well. We've gotten a lot of buy-in from our CSRs, and we're really, really proud of where we are now. So it's made our job much easier when we come in front of you and do these presentations. So this is something we're really proud of and we'll continue to make sure is a forefront of our daily focus. And then on that note, lastly, we've been working over the last, it's probably been 7 months now. It's been a huge effort on launching a brand new customer account system here within the Valley, as well as our coast operations, but for the Valley as well, which is frankly going to bring us into the 21st century. And I say that kind of as a joke, but the current system we're using was developed in 1983. And just for context, it's a black screen with green letters on it that we utilize every day. Very robust, but not very intuitive or interactive for our CSRs. And it does prevent us from creating a better customer experience for when customers want to just log in and maybe check their account. So we've been doing a lot of efforts over the last 7 months to do a lot of the legwork to implement this. And now we have a launch date of midsummer. We're thinking probably July somewhere in there is when we're going to be launching that. And some of the things that we're doing for prep work going into that is communications to our customers on what's changing, when that's changing, and how it's going to impact them. And we're doing that through mailers, text them all, social media, and website, just doing a communications blast so everyone knows what's going on and what to expect. But it's something that we're really excited to finally implement and have that be for our customers. So it's going to be a much better customer experience. So with that, that's all I have. I can answer any questions that any of you might have and any comments too.
I had a question. Last time we got a visit, there was talk of restructuring the grant program that's much utilized in Amity for cleanup day. And we were looking for what that cost will be integrated into the contract, correct? And I don't think we closed the loop on that.
For the community cleanup days
Yes.
and tying it, I guess, to the franchise, some of the things we've been talking about. Yeah, so that's something that we should reinvigorate and look at. That's something that we've been doing with all of our jurisdictions in the valley that have these cleanup days. We have a very robust donations and sponsorship process within our community or within our company. And it creates some challenges and roadblocks, just being honest, having to go through our cyber grant portal, which Nathan, I'm sure you're familiar with. So that's something that we do want to start tucking into our franchise agreements, because then we don't have to go through that process. It's just something that it's guaranteed that we're going to provide to you guys at the date that you pick, as well as to the level of service that you want. So that's something that I can connect with Nathan and Dan Blue, our government relations manager, on and reinvigorate that so we can get that loop closed and tuck that into the franchise. Because I agree, it's going to be not only much cleaner for you all, but more so on our end, because the intercompany negotiations that have to happen for all of these requests is a lot. So I definitely will put that on top of our list to work on. And then to your point, sorry, to your point too, we'll look at what rate impacts could be, whatever that might look like. Those community events generally are pretty low cost events, so it's very minimal. So
I mean, it may be low cost for Recology, but it is a cost for Amity.
absolutely,
for a small
absolutely.
community. So it does figure into our budget and how
Absolutely.
many services that we can provide. So we were waiting for that.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, we will do that.
Okay.
Oh, no. So we'd be able to do I'll say simple, but a simple amendment to the franchise and be able to tuck that in. That wouldn't be a problem at all. Even if we had done any kind of renegotiation, that's something that we can definitely rope in. And that's things like, again, we're working on, I think we have 4 other jurisdictions that we do similar programs with. So, and we plan on doing that as well. So.
There's statewide recycling changes, and Recology is taking ownership of that for Amity.
Mhm.
But I've heard of recycling depots that are coming throughout the town. Can you just share a little bit about that website?
Yeah, absolutely. So with RMA that started last July, it would have been July 2025, there was a lot of changes that came across the state. To your point, the biggest change that I guess our communities felt immediately was a statewide consistent acceptance list in our recycling cans. So the red lids that you guys have at your homes, that's a standardized acceptance list across the state now. So anywhere that you go, same things can be accepted. Some things were pulled off of the list that are no longer recyclable. Some things were added to the list that are now recyclable as well. But in addition to that, within the RMA and CAA, who is managing that, there's a lot of acronyms that are happening right now. Within CAA, there has been expansion of what they're calling recycle on centers, which are these expanded depots. And they come in the form of like a Connex box, like a storage container, a 20-foot storage container, and the doors can open. And within that, there's hard to recycle bins that you can place hard to recycle items in there, like different plastic films, rigid plastics, like the 12-pack beer holder, the rigid ones, different things like that, and eventually styrofoam as well. So we actually just met with CAA. It's probably been, I'm going to round up, a month ago now. And we explored the idea of adding one of the depots, firstly at our transfer station in McMinnville, because we have the resources and we have the infrastructure to do so. There is other locations throughout the community. I think Lafayette, Grand Ronde, and Sheridan were potentials. If Amity is interested in something like that, it's something that we can definitely connect on and offer that. But it's a really cool added service for just more recycling options to be able to provide for our customers. So. Absolutely. Yeah. When we first implement the one at the transfer station, I mean, right now, any and everyone can come to our transfer station. They don't even need to be a customer of ours, really. So they can come in and utilize that space as well. Yeah, definitely.
See those up.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, to that point, we have a lot of residents throughout all of our communities that are still saving styrofoam in the day that we finally turn that light switch back on, which is coming with RMA. We're just not quite sure timing of that and what that looks like yet. We just got to find an end market for it. So, but I will say the first Recycle On center that they launched was down in Southern Oregon. It was actually at one of our Recology Ashland facilities. So that was really cool. We got to partner with them for the very first ever. And now CA again is ready. They've kind of taken this approach on RMA of kind of working south to north. Especially here in the northern part of the valley, more specifically, and getting up to Portland, we already have pretty robust recycling programs. So they've kind of started to roll out these different programs and depots in areas that might not have the level of service that we're already providing here in the valley. So yeah, that's something that is coming though. Great. Well, perfect. Thank you for having me here tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
So, approval of districts.
I move to approve Recology's proposed rate schedule.
Second.
All those in favor of approval, please indicate by saying aye.
I,
Motion passed. Next we have the CCRLS.
I apologize. I was very, very hopeful, and CCRLS was very, very hopeful that we would have an agreement before us tonight. We do not, not yet. They're still finalizing some of the language. And so if we'd prefer to hold off on this one, I think that's just fine.
I move to table the CCRLS agreement for until we get our contract.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next we have audit contracting services. So as Stephen mentioned, when we talked about the budget, we were at the end of our 3-year contract. They reached out to see about potential price changes and the move forward. You can see auditor. They are happy to keep us as clients. They didn't offer a contract, but a fee to our next audit. That is for us. It will be.
Nothing specific to add, no.
Is there any benefit to shopping this around?
I think there is certainly room for us to shop around. I don't know that we could successfully find an auditor for this year's audit, but I think moving forward that yes, there would definitely be. There could be some benefit to at least asking around. I will say I haven't heard of many cities that are below that like 20,000 mark. But I'm happy to shop around and ask around, see which auditing firms are still taking municipal clients. I know sometimes that can be.
Yeah, by conference, a lot of cities are struggling or losing their auditors, so they said if you get a good one, stick with them because they're not out there anymore.
And I know it's easy to change the around us, but reduce the system and
I can keep them for 10 years, so same monitor. If we have to shop around. But I definitely think we're looking around.
But this is a new firm though, taking over.
It's
Yes,
a new firm that's merging with the old one, and our auditor, the person who's actually doing the audit, will remain the same.
And this is just a 1 year. So I mean, yeah, so we'll have, if we want to shop it, we have some time.
the one. How they have. This auditor. Here, which is fact that it pushed the $20,000 mark was what. You know, spurred us to look into the funds then, but as you, they already have. Second 2 years of our contract because the prices that they offered us through the contract were just not our needs.
Hence the reason for 1 year this time, probably.
Yeah, I think our last auditor got up to almost 30,000.
I do want to also add that right now this includes a single audit. Moving forward,
Next year.
unless we receive any fantastic federal grants, we won't need a federal audit starting next year. 750,000 of federal funds, and so the USDA, water treatment plant, and the Safe Drinking Water Revolving Loan Fund project that were just completed or wrapping up completion were federal funds, but nothing that we currently have going forward is going to put us over that threshold.
So it could be lower, like this is including that.
Motion to approve Archer Lewis, formerly Jared Noel and Russell LLC contract for fiscal year 2025 and 2026 services.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Audit on.
Mayor King, is your microphone still on?
Oh,
No. You cry.
I would like to presenting. Sorry, Councilor Luder.
It's all right. You just dropped out a couple minutes ago.
All right, we are back in business with workers' comp coverage for volunteers. So this resolution needs to be renewed each year in order for SAFE to cover the city's volunteers with workers' compensation insurance. Tasha, is this the one where you name all the events that have coverage? And then anytime we're here for these meetings? Okay. Any questions or concerns? Then I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution 2026-06, a resolution extending the city of Amity's workers' compensation coverage to volunteers of the city of Amity.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution 2026-06, a resolution extending the city of Amity's workers' compensation coverage to volunteers of the city of Amity. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Resolution approved. We'll move on to the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments Attorney and Planning Services Contract. So this is the annual master services agreement for our attorney and planning services. This authorizes the COG to provide a variety of services to the city of Amity from July 1st, 2026 to June 30, 2027. This is the service agreement, and this is above and beyond our just membership benefit services. The rate schedule of those, and then the local service plan. Anything to add, Nathan? Could you share with us the trend of service cost over the last couple of years? Are they holding pretty steady? Because we're seeing some like hourly rate increases. And I know that those were considered in making this year's budget, but just in general, what does that look like?
That's a great question. Over the last couple of years, I think the budget's really reflected both city staffs increasing, I don't want to say familiarity, but general experience, right? 3 years ago, you had a new city administrator and new city clerk that handled planning functions. And so over the last 3 years, we've gained a lot of experience. And so you've seen the overall calls to the COG go down. Now that said, their services are still needed for a variety of planning and land use functions. And their hourly rates have certainly gone up considerably over the last couple of years as they've worked through federal budget challenges and other budgetary challenges on their end and really tried to recover cost through their planning hourly rates. And so those hourly rates have gone up, our overall calls have gone down. And so budget-wise, the city of Amity has stayed about even. Maybe a slight increase, but generally a lot of the planning things that we see cost for get billed out to applicants and kind of passed through to potential developers at any way. So.
And then more general question. We have an attorney of record and we also use COG attorney services. What do we use the government? I can't remember the name.
So our attorney of record is essentially local government law group.
Yes. Do we utilize them for much throughout the year?
No.
Okay.
The COG attorney will answer most of our questions, will help with certain drafting of documents and things like that. Really where the other attorney group comes in is COG will not represent the city in a trial. So if we ever came to like a lawsuit or some other, well, and even code enforcement, right? Occasionally people will ask for a trial. That representation goes through local government law group. We had one of those, I think, last year. Somebody requested a trial. COG attorney will not go that route for a variety of reasons. But so we need somebody that we can rely on or turn to when we do need a trial lawyer.
And then last question for legal and planning services. In your experience, how did these equate to just like the market rate if we were to go out and get these separate?
So legal services is well under market rate. And, just between local government law group, I think that hourly rate is probably $350, $360 an hour. COG's hourly rate is $250 an hour. So the city attorney services are well below, I guess, what you'd consider market rate, if $300 an hour can be that. But then on the planning side, I haven't asked for too many other land use consultants' fees. I've come across a few smaller companies that are looking for clients that may be willing to offer a lower hourly rate, closer in the range of $100 to $120 an hour, as compared to 100 and I think currently Jim is at 155, 160, somewhere in there. So it would be less. Um, that one's trickier. That one's trickier for sure.
There is also value in having them as our long-term planner though, because they are familiar with our ordinances and our codes.
There is, and
There's less time spent on
Yeah.
that.
there's also value in that they ask each other questions if they run into them, and that there's kind of a team of planners behind them. Usually we're only getting one planner, but there is some value there that they're in a group and working together.
And I agree. I just feel like it's important to ask on the record so we're kind of all on the same page too. Okay. With that, is there any other questions regarding this? Okay, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the 2026 Master Services Agreement and authorize the city administrator to sign.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve the 2026 Master Services Agreement with the Council of Governments for Attorney and Planning Services and authorize the city administrator to sign. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Hey.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion approved. Next, we have Community Facilities Assessment, and this one I will hand off to Nathan.
Thank you. Yes, this item tonight is one that I've thought about a lot, and one that I've kind of gone back and forth on quite a bit. But just to give some background, for the last couple of years, the Amity City Council has recognized the importance or the need to assess the community's needs and how best the existing and potential public facilities can meet those needs to improve the community's quality of life. As an example, the city's council goal 2.1 this year states the following: acquire funding and complete a needs analysis for our public facilities. Recently, we had a potential consultant reach out about doing work related to public facilities and either design services or kind of real estate services. But after visiting with this consultant, they expressed the willingness to at least offer some limited work for a discounted rate. We haven't connected too much again since about what exactly that means, but they are kind of new to the municipal space and trying to get their feet under them. They have experience in other realms, more business minded realms, but trying to kind of increase or expand their experience. And so offered or made the offer that they would be willing to at least help with some of Amity's projects. In that same discussion, I mentioned that I've considered at least what it would take to complete kind of an initial community needs assessment. I know I had talked with a couple of consultants about this time last year, maybe a little longer ago, and got some initial quotes just ranging from, 30 to 40, 50,000, kind of the typical consultant assessment rate. And I really would like to say that I believe that if the city relies on city staff, primarily myself, the city administrator, to complete some of that legwork in engaging the community with some consulting wisdom and kind of oversight, or not oversight, but insight into both the community engagement strategy and kind of the facilities assessment strategy, that I could complete at least the essence of a needs assessment. And really what I'm trying to get at with this is that I don't have the experience or the ability to go deep dive into facility inspections, site plans, or detailed alternative cost estimates. but I do believe that I have the ability to engage with the community to try to have that discussion of what is a true community need. It's like it's kind of a broad area, it's a broad topic, and there's a lot of things that can sound like preferences or wants that maybe needs, or vice versa, needs that sound like preferences or wants. Uh, but I think that discussion of what is a need, where key service gaps are, and then at least an initial idea of how we might be able to address those needs, whether it's expansion of this site, utilization of a different site, or combination community center, whatever, basically at least an initial strategy of this is the option we should explore, and this is how it meets the needs identified in this. I've put together kind of a brief outline that I would follow, different tasks, right, to kind of different pieces of an analysis. Uh, this would take place over the next 6 to 9 months. But it's something that we've identified as needs to be done. I'm not sure of where other funding could come from. I'm still certainly exploring some ideas. In fact, the Oregon Community Foundation has a grant application open right now that I think I'm planning to apply for some funding through, and they may be willing to, or to at least offer some funding in this area. But I wanted to just get council's thoughts on if a staff-led community facilities and needs assessment, kind of a bare bones discussion of that community need would be acceptable, or if it would be better to be performed by a third party, uh, and what kind of basically I'm offering up an option here to take on a little bit of extra work and try to conduct this assessment over the next several months. Or I can continue pursuing grant funding and looking for consultant services to run through that needs analysis.
So I'm just going to open it up for comment and opinion and discussion from the council. If there's initial feedback on that. Really, I think Nathan is looking for council direction because we're able to say, no, thank you, please pursue grant funding to get a professional. Or we have this project outline that he can attempt to the best of his ability and present. Councilor Blanco.
Outside of you taking on the burden of extra work, it seems to me that taking a shot at doing it in-house is reasonable before going out and trying to find consultants who, one, will be expensive, and two, these days it's hard to completely believe they don't have their own motivations and perspectives driving some of the information they will eventually put into a very expensive report for us to review. So if you're willing, and if you need any help that any of us can give, I'll certainly help if I can.
I will certainly be relying on city council, city staff. We have some great people. My background, my undergrad degree was sociology, and so that's where I had some experience leading focus groups, interviews, and working through surveys, and so that's the part that I enjoy is that community engagement. I also appreciate the sentiment that a third-party consultant may include things that you can't trust their motivations on, because that's what many people would say about an in-house city administrator also doing the work. So,
but we're all here to keep each other honest.
yeah.
That is a benefit I see, is that we have deliverables here, we have an outline, but if it's not meeting what council's expectation or needs is to make the next decision moving forward, it's a lot easier to request that you dig a little deeper or bring us more data on this, or, an alternative, rather than paying for a scope of work that is exactly what we get down to the letter with no ability to fit our community needs even for this portion of the project. I do feel like ultimately we will need some more technical analysis of things that are points of expertise, as far as the architectural, structural, someone that might have, and the consultant that offered might have this, but just like insights on ADA and seismic needs. But I know there's a lot of information out there also just on like spatial needs. Those mathematics are done, that they're findable. So, I'm really just looking for council's opinions and comfort level.
If he's willing to do it, I'd prefer it be a member of the community who's has actual stakes in the future instead of just someone who's getting paid to and then they move on to the next project.
Councilor Shields?
Well, once again, I don't have a hard opinion one way or the other. Some things that I'm kind of worn with in my mind is a potential advantage of hiring it out is mostly Nathan's time, in my opinion, because as well intentioned as we always are and how long we think something will take, it almost always takes, and at least in my experience, at least twice as long as I think it should have taken. Uh, no, no offense.
No,
Just the way it works in my world. And there that there may be more of a cost than just at first blush. That way is one of my concerns. The other concern is the if we do decide we want to go that route later, it's going to cost that much more because the price of things are not going down. So the cost of waiting, while may not be significant, is something maybe to consider. On the other hand, if Nathan's able to do that legwork, that's information that could be passed on if we decided to go that route later, that maybe could help with the cost of a consultant as well, because some of that legwork potentially could already be done. So I'm kind of on both sides of this. I like the idea of a personal investment as well. So yeah, I can't say that I'm hard on one side or the other. I'm open to both. But yeah, just kind of my thoughts.
Council President Bohorquez?
I agree with Councilor Shields. I think that there are pros and cons to both of this. The burden on staff time to complete this, I think, would be more significant than maybe estimated. And that is a cost to the city because it's your time not spent doing something else or not finding grants or not doing other things, other projects. I think that there is some benefit to having a specialist who does this and can look for things outside of the box or know different avenues to take that we might not know. So I think that there is benefit to that, and there is benefit to having someone in-house looking at what our needs are, but I don't feel strongly one way or the other. I see both sides of it.
Councilor Luker? Please share your thoughts.
Yeah, I see both sides of the coin here. There's benefits to both sides of this, right? You know, we go third party. It doesn't tie up Nathan's time. There might be different avenues that specialists can go down that we don't know about. But then there's a stake side of it too that, you know, I like that, you know, Nathan has said, yeah, I'll take this on. You know, it benefits the city of Amity. So I'm 50-50 either way, however that comes out. But if we decide to go in-house, if there's anything I can do, Nathan, to help you or help the council, I'm there.
Thank you. Um, so some concerns I'm hearing boil up are really the time management. That's something that we want to be mindful of, and potential associated costs, because when it's third party, we have a cost. We know that all that those funds are going to that. Not that I think anyone would run wild, but I think if we were going to do it in-house, it might need to be something that if there's a specific associated cost with an aspect of this proposal, that it come to council for discussion and maybe look at this as like a council project that Nathan is leading and doing the majority of the work. If that makes sense, if we could ask you to just lean on us, because I hear openness to that. But then part of this was also that grant funds and different opportunities would still be pursued. And I think that's important as well. Councilor Blanco.
Would it be reasonable, since we've just sort of opened up this whole idea for the discussion, would it be reasonable for Nathan, if he could, to think in terms of, okay, let's see what would be involved if we tried to keep it in-house? Try to look at it and determine how much of my time can I realistically put into this? What kind of costs would it be? And again, even ballpark things like that would be helpful. And then, like, at our next meeting, we could consider it, if that's enough time for you to get those ideas together, get a little more focus on what an in-house attempt to do this would actually look like.
So we have in the packet, the project overview goals, the task, and the deliverables, but you're saying time and money.
Well,
I mean,
because I honestly,
just to boil
I
that
do
down.
not know what all sorts of costs would be involved from this side.
Mhm.
Costs involved on just hiring someone, well, that's pretty plain and simple, but you know,
And then to layer onto that, are there funds built into the upcoming budget that would support this work being done in-house?
Not specifically called out for this, but in general, I'm trying to think through what would necessarily be a cost. I could see a couple of community engagement pieces, right? If we were to try to run flyers or something else that maybe a little more robust engagement might have a cost.
But that could be like event funds, the same as like hosting a town hall.
But a consultant would be a cost if you were to use even at a discounted rate. It's an additional.
That's true. Yeah. And so I can certainly get more details from that kind of potential consultant who offered at a discounted rate and figure out what they use the terms pro bono or discount or heavily discounted. And so I need to get clarification on what exactly those mean. But
So I'm hearing the potential to table this item with just bringing back a little bit more information. And then the grant you said being a possibility, what is the application timeline on that?
so that's the Oregon Community Foundation grant, and it's open, well, from May 26th, I think, through the end of June. So
So you wouldn't necessarily need our approval to submit an application for that, but is it your intention to do so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would it be unreasonable to get a few updated quotes from some of those consultants? Because part of me is curious is how much has it gone up from our last quotes, and what, maybe have another discussion with our discounted consultant
Hmm.
whatever that discount actually means. I mean, that might make, especially if he's willing to work with you, maybe you guys could team up and have we could have a both and type of situation here.
I mean, like a hybrid?
Yeah, maybe a hybrid. I don't know. I don't know if that's even a possibility, but um yeah, that would maybe inform my decision a little bit more if it's not too much work.
I guess my question to that would be, would we be looking for a professional consultant that would deliver this same outline? Or would we be getting a quote from a consultant that would give us the more robust, technical, expanded? Because when a professional hears like a community facilities analysis, they're gonna give you much more than what Nathan is offering. So,
I would say that
okay,
that's what I'm picturing. Yeah,
okay.
because we're probably, I don't know if more for our money is the right way to say that because it's a lot more money, but there's a lot
Yeah.
more detail too, right? So
My concern
Yeah.
only being that we don't have that in the next year's budget, so that would be waiting a year to start anything. But I don't think that there's any issue with getting that information. It would just be once we got that information, we could not move forward. Okay. Um, anything else that any counselors want to add to this discussion? Because we can table this item for now. And then
Does tabling it not allow you to still apply for the grant or no?
yeah, it would just mean he not move forward with doing this and we would just bring it for discussion next.
Okay.
I don't know because I lost my page. Was this an actual item with a motion? In the world.
We just had a
Actual-
recommendation.
no, it's
Okay, so do you need a vote or anything, Nathan?
Not specifically,
Okay.
no. Mostly my aim here tonight was to kind of gauge council's comfort or level of interest in kind of in-house versus trying to find a consultant for that work. So,
Okay, so will you please bring this back for discussion next month?
yes.
Awesome, thank you. Hey, I've almost figured out what I'm doing. Our last item of new business will be Phase 2 Comprehensive Plan Update Contract Award. So we issued a request for proposals for the second phase of our comp plan update project. The proposals were originally due May 22nd. During the last week of the RFP was available, city staff reviewed the request with DLCD and made some clarifications for the potential respondents. And the submission deadline was then extended to Friday, the 29th. I will hand this to you, Nathan.
Yeah, I apologize that there's not an evaluation and recommendation in there. We received two proposals, one from Healthy Sustainable Communities or HSC. They're the firm that completed the phase 1 comprehensive plan update, if you will. And then the other proposal we received was from Winterbrook Planning. And they are currently working on the city's housing capacity analysis. So we have two firms, both fairly familiar with the city, and familiar with contacts and kind of how we work. And so between the two, I honestly had a really hard time providing a good solid recommendation. So I'm just going to kind of walk through kind of the pros and cons I see in each proposal, if you will, and then hopefully get some discussion and a consensus from the council and then an award. Healthy Sustainable Communities is they worked on phase 1 of the city's comprehensive plan. They did some good work there. They were pretty engaged with the community, and they seem ready and qualified to kind of continue that same work. They're set up to just kind of keep that project rolling. They're familiar with DLCD and the PRAT, the periodic review assistance team. Basically the staff from all the different state agencies who are going to assist in this project. So they have familiarity and coordination there. The other piece, really where I think they differ, is the response to the scope of consultant services. HSC doesn't have as detailed of a response, but their budget doesn't rely on. Sorry, let me back up just a little bit. So the piece that I clarified with DLCD that last week is how much DLCD and the periodic review assistance team would be taking on as part of this project. From what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing from DLCD, they're committing to a fair amount of the legwork when it relates to the kind of technical mapping of natural resources, which in theory makes sense because the Department of State Lands is familiar with all of that and skilled in that area. And same with ODFW, and they have people on staff that are familiar with and able to produce kind of those planning maps and resources that we need. My hesitancy was just to rely on them completely to do everything that they're suggesting they're going to do, with no flexibility there. And so Winterbrook is very similar, but they have a plethora of experience. Honestly, their experience and qualifications are a bit stronger than HSC's. They're very familiar with natural resource planning. It's kind of been their bread and butter for the last, many years. But their budget was tighter. And so they relied on DLCD to do everything that DLCD has said they will do. DLCD's assured me that that's reasonable and that they're going to kind of show up, if you will, but I'm just hesitant for that reason and that reason alone. But of these two proposals, that's kind of where I'm sitting on the pros and cons. Winterbrook was more detailed, more specific to the scope of work. They really know what they're talking about, but the budget is tight. HSC, again, they show that they're taking the same total budget, but from my experience with HSC and kind of what they've outlined, there's more flexibility in what exactly they're doing in each of those tasks. Whereas on the Winterbrook side, there's not as much. If that makes sense. I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm accurately representing kind of the two proposals that we have here in front of us. Both very strong. I've enjoyed working with both groups. I can honestly say that I'll be happy to work with either group going forward. So I'm no concerns there from a difficult to work with or city staff perspective, but that's kind of the main difference that I see. Does anybody have any questions about the proposals after looking through them, or questions about the project overall?
I don't have specific questions. I'll just ask for council's input on comparing the two. I'm happy to provide my high level insight just on looking at them and then hearing Nathan. I feel like we would get a quality product from either. HSC said for $60,000, we'll get it done on time and we'll do everything we need to do. And we have experience that they've delivered a quality product. I'm not familiar with the other company, but their proposal to me is higher quality. If we were starting from scratch of like, I didn't know, I didn't have experience of either of them, I think I would be drawn to theirs because the attention to detail means that they've already put more effort into looking at it and objectively saying, this is what we can do for what you have to work with. But that also means that them working with DLCD, there might be that gap, right? Between what DLCD will do to help us get there and what the Winterbrook will do for the amount we're paying them. And if there's that gap there, then we're stuck with a project that isn't complete to our expectations or DLCDs, which could be navigated as well. So I'm not strongly pulled to either, but solely based on the experience of the initial portion, the phase one of the project, I know that healthy, sustainable communities would get us to where we needed to be. But I feel like that does a disservice to this other company that presented itself really well that I have no reason to doubt. Which may not be helpful in forming a consensus, but that's my thoughts.
It sounds, from what I'm hearing, that the biggest problem with the winter, is that it? Is the unknown of whether or not bumps in the road will throw them off course. Because they're counting on input from someone else to accomplish what they want. But it also sounds like they're, I won't say more competent, that's not quite the word I'm looking for, but they're more thorough or well-versed in this material a little bit than the other company. The other companies, big thing is you've worked with them, you know them, and you feel confident that they'll deliver what they say. The other group, you might get a few more horsepower out of the whole project, but you never know if there might be those issues involved. So I don't think it would be unwarranted to consider that giving them a chance might be worthwhile because of a better projection. We can't say they're not going to deliver. We don't know. Although honestly, sometimes I think apparently working with government, you might as well just pull out a 20-sided die and roll it sometimes with the way these things go. So, I mean, I'm just hearing that there might be benefits to the Winterbrook people. And our concerns are reasonable. I don't know how much weight you can give them because they're unknown. So I mean, I'd go with the group that seems to have a better grasp on the whole focus and what they can come up with. So.
And their listed experience is a lot more substantial. Counselor Luker, can I call on you to share any thoughts or preferences between the two or just insights on comparison?
Yeah, I'm torn. I don't know the project well enough to judge credentials here, but looking at the comparisons, Winterbrook looks like a better, more versed at the subject matter expert in this situation. So I would probably, lean towards them if I didn't have an understanding, but working with the other companies, you know, we know how they work too. So I really, I'm torn here. I really am.
Thank you. Council President Boerges.
I have no doubt that either company would provide a product that would be just fine for us and what we need and would excel at it. You know, our comprehensive plan, I think, came out really well. I do think that Winterbrook had a stronger proposal, and I have no doubt that working with DLCD in conjunction with that would be any hiccups. So I would go with Winterbrook, but again, either one I think would be great to work with on the project.
Councilor Shields,
Winterbrook.
Councilor Blanco.
I'll go Winterbrook.
Okay. Is there anyone that would be opposed to going with the Winterbrook? I'm not hearing that. So is that the consensus you need? And then we can motion. I guess, would you like more discussion or do you have anything to add?
Discussion.
Okay. Okay, I just want to make sure we're not missing any.
You hit on
Anything.
just about everything.
Okay. So with that, do I have a motion? Would someone like to make a motion?
Move to award the contract for Amity Comprehensive Plan Update Period. Sorry, got this in the way. Periodic Review Project to Winterbrook.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to award the contract for the Amity Comprehensive Plan Update Periodic Review Project to Winterbrook. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please signify by saying no. Motion passes. That was our last item of new business, so we will move into department reports. We'll start with the city administrators. We have that in the packet. Do you have anything to add, Nathan?
I do want to call out the negotiations with the city's labor union are ongoing. We've reached a tentative agreement on the COLA. It was reflected in the proposed budget. So not expecting any changes there, not going to come back to council and ask for a different budget here in a couple weeks. But we are still working on some of the other tweaks with the union, and we do not have an agreement yet. That agreement technically goes through June 30th of 2026. And so after that point, basically we just continue acting under the current agreement until a new agreement is reached. So.
And then, so ultimately, we would hope it would be ready for the July meeting
Yes.
for council approval.
Yes. Hoping to be ready there. Other than that, excited about some of the work the Historic Landmarks Committee is doing. We just completed a historic preservation plan. They're going to be finalizing that this month, and so it'll come back to City Council for approval / adoption next month in July. But then also they received a grant for $3,000 to work on an oral history project. It's part of the America 250 kind of program. So exciting little grant that will hopefully help us tell Amity's story. So excited about some of that work. Any questions for me? Anything outstanding projects still weighing in somebody's mind?
Thank you. We have our city recorder report. Tasha, do you have anything to add to that? Okay.
You can go ahead.
Oh, okay. So reminder, movies in the park on June 19th. It's gonna be Hoppers. A cute movie, well, popcorn. And then the next movie is in August and Turbo. And I reached out and it sounds like First Federal help sponsor that movie. And I did send out other requests to like
the fire department and a lot of people, so we know that. And I think that was it.
Awesome. I have a request on the movie in the park online. It has a time of like 7:30 to 9:30, but it's not dark by then. We'll probably set up at 7:30, but the movie normally can't start till closer to 9. So maybe even we just put the posted time as 8:30. Okay.
We can shift that back.
And real quick, the next
Yeah.
report, I did not delete that needs grade eight, so.
Oh, that's okay. I was going to say that. So we do have our public works report.
May I actually
Yeah.
jump back to one thing? I apologize. I meant to include it in my report. I think I included it in a weekly report. I thought about even bringing it as a separate agenda item. I don't know that it warranted that necessarily, but right now ODOT is working on the urban design verification study, basically looking at kind of how the highway runs through our downtown area, how pedestrians and cars interact with that area, and then highlighting or identifying improvements that can be. The idea is that they're identifying improvements that can be done at times of future improvement. So if they ever repave 99W, they'll have a new striping plan ready to go, right? So that we're not then having to figure out, oh, well, shoot, how should it be striped? And then it just gets restriped the way it was because nobody thought.
We don't want that.
And so the whole point of the study is to kind of identify those improvements that would be most beneficial to the community and then kind of set them aside for later, either big projects or other funding as funding is available. One thing that specifically got brought up was a location of a rapid flashing beacon. So similar to Rice Lane intersection, that has a button that the pedestrian pushes, it flashes, you walk across the street. The city has long put, and I think it's on our current goals, to pursue funding or to pursue a rapid flashing beacon at the intersection of nursery and trade. That being a very heavy intersection, lots of vehicle traffic. I think the idea has been to protect pedestrian movements there. It makes a lot of sense. In this project, what we heard actually from the community and kind of while doing a site visit is that actually the intersection one block up, Sherman and Trade or Sherman and 99W, gets more frequent pedestrian use. And so that one, essentially the engineer that's working on the project is asking just for to kind of get a quick consensus on if their plan is to bring that recommendation forward, is that going to be acceptable, or is there something else that they should know that would push that to or would keep it at nursery and trade as opposed to Sherman and Trade? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we had the online website that people could put their recommendations and input into. ODOT hosted that. We also had them at the Daffodil Festival with their setup where they talked to people, and then they also did walk through like site visit that day, but it was tough because they were working on the ADA ramps. But they've been here other times too. And so that recommendation comes directly from community members, and then also just the engineer, like the safety of like where cars turn and the turn radiuses and so it's been well thought out. It's just not what myself or the council has advocated for in the past. We've always advocated for the trade and nursery intersection. But personally, like, I want to support the input, and I feel like the Sherman and trade would be safer, better. You're kind of like more in the corridor. There's the visual clutter, a lot going on. And so maybe a flash there rather than disrupting the two intersecting highways. I think it would be better. Is there anyone opposed to that recommendation coming forward?
Especially since the middle school now has. Kids.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, we don't have students coming from the middle school side and choosing the first one. So, if that recommendation were to come forward, I don't think there would be opposition.
Thank you.
Okay, yes. So we saw our public works report, library report, city engineer billing, attorney, and planning billing report. Any questions on any of those? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move on to business from the mayor and city councilors. For the good of the order, Council President Bojorquez, do you have anything?
I'd like to call out the hard work of our library staff, and they've put together our summer reading program packets. Those will start going out June 12th, and we have a really good program on deck this year. So excited for that.
Thank you. Counselor Shields, do you have anything for the good of the order?
I have nothing to add.
Counselor Rachel Blanco?
Nothing to add.
Counselor Luker, anything to add for the good of the order?
Yeah, I'd just like to make sure everybody's aware that, we have just a handful of days left of kids in session at school, and they're going to be out, and just be a little more cautious as we go through town and side streets. I notice an uptick in speeding, just, here on Goucher on my street, our street, and just pay attention and be aware. That is all.
Thank you for the reminder. Counselor Michael Blanco?
Nothing to add.
Nothing for the good of the order. My mayor's report is very brief. It's just a couple updates. Due to scheduling conflicts, we will be holding our July council meeting on July 15th. Skipping to that middle of the month. So our regular council meeting will be on July 15th instead of July 1st. I would just add to that July is when we will hold our city administrator's annual evaluation. My plan was to do it in the same fashion with the same framework that we've used over the last couple of years. I think that's helpful just to compare and contrast and look at trends. But if there's anything that else you would like to see or something you feel that we should do differently than we've done the last 2 years, feel free to let me know now or soon, because I won't subtract anything, but I will consider any additions that people want to send my way if we, end up adding to it. And so my intent is to just let you guys know that'll be happening at the July 15th meeting. And so around the middle of June, I will be sending out the evaluations to everyone to fill out and ask them to get back to me with like a 2-week turnaround so that I can compile a presentation of those results that we can share with council and Nathan and hold that evaluation at the July meeting.
As a minor point, I'll be out of town then on the 15th.
Okay. We will move forward with the meeting, but if you wouldn't mind getting your evaluation back, and if you'd like to check in personally, I'm happy to convey anything or absorb anything that you want to be considered then. Okay.
So we only having one meeting in July then. Is that what I'm hearing?
That was the plan, unless anyone feels like we need a specific work session. We will have a work session in June. We'll plan one for August, but yeah, it would just be the one formal meeting in
Just
July.
wanted to confirm result.
Yep. Okay. Any questions or anything else for the good of the order? Oh, okay. Do I have a final motion of the evening?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor of adjournment, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting adjourned, 7:36. Thank you.